I'm Marianne Binetti, and today I am redoing my moss window box. Now this is a wire frame. It'll last for years and years, but these wire frames are usually lined with moss, which does not last very long. Instead, I'm going to show you how to use cocoa fiber. But first, a mistake that we made is this is removable, which is great for winter, but this gets very heavy. Any container garden does. So be sure that you use good size hooks with at least 2 screws into wood, because we made the mistake of not having it quite strong enough and came home one afternoon and the entire window box was on the ground. Once you have your wire baskets securely attached, then when you go to the garden center, you're going to mostly find round cocoa fiber mats like this, and they are designed to go into round containers. Now, I used to try to improvise and use these. They don't quite fit and they don't go up high enough, and I end up spilling a lot of soil. But now, the new solution is you can buy the cocoa fiber in a roll. So you can buy just as much as you need, or buy a medium-sized roll. It's not very expensive. You can cut it to fit, and then these rolls fit in so much nicer into a rectangular shaped, they call this a hay trough window box, and I just like it because it's metal, it won't rot, and you can use it. I've probably planted this thing for about 15 or 20 years, and every once in a while I'll give it a fresh coat of spray paint, but it just lasts great. Okay, so now this is lined. Now I'm going to hide most of it using moss. So you can just go out into the garden here in the Pacific Northwest. I have this growing all over on trees and rocks and everything. If you don't have a lot of moss in your yard, you can buy it from a craft store. And originally these troughs and the wire baskets were made and lined with just moss. It doesn't work that great because unless the moss is great big sheets, it leaks all over and falls apart. So instead, what I'm going to try to do, one more tip. I want to wire these corners. You see how this is sticking out? This is just little bits of green wire. And the cocoa fiber is good because you can just poke the wire through the cocoa fiber, and then you can fasten the 2 ends of the wire together so that the cocoa fiber mat stays in place exactly where you want it. So, just make a little U-turn shape with my wire, poking each end through so that it stays. Okay, then when I have it and they're sturdy, I take the sheet moss and I just slip it between the cocoa fiber and the moss. Okay, so the bigger the pieces you have, the better. But you do not need to cover up all the cocoa fiber, because over time the moss will kind of fill in. It looks very organic and rustic, and so I just put bits and pieces. And the advantage of the moss is that it does help keep the plants cool and moist because of the humidity of the moist moss. The disadvantage of the moss is sometimes there's little critters in the moss, and so I always use slug bait that first week or so after I add the moss. So I fill in the moss from the bottom, whoops, where you need big pieces, it falls right through. From the bottom, and I work my way up. Now I don't need to put moss on the back of this because you won't be seeing the back. And when the moss tends to fall through and you get these little bits, remember the tip of the wire. Just take bits of wire, make a little U-turn, and poke it in, and that will help secure the moss and to secure the cocoa fiber mat to your wire. Okay, so you can see now I've got all the moss in. Behind the moss is the cocoa fiber. I filled it with potting soil. The potting soil, when you add the potting soil to a moss basket with cocoa fiber, it fills and pushes the sides of the cocoa fiber out. So don't worry if your cocoa fiber isn't shoved up against the side at first, because the potting soil is going to push out and make it look all nice and smooth. Now, before I plant my actual plants, this is a shade garden window box. I like to space them still in their pots so I get a good layout of how I want it to do. This is a really simple design, but very effective in the deep dark shade. I'm using only 2 different plants, begonias, and this is a tuberous non-stop begonia, and it comes in peach and it comes in this rose color. These begonias do great in the shade, and another of my favorites is lobelia. Lobelia comes in white, which I think really brightens up the shade, and also comes in various forms of blue. There's even a violet lobelia. So lobelia is going to be the trailing plant that hangs over, and the begonia is going to be the upright. I'm just going to space this throughout, and then I'll add some of the little blue lobelias to the corners at the end, so that in just a couple of weeks, the lobelia will trail over the edge. The non-stop begonias will be in full bloom. This is a very, very shaded area, but it will go kapow with bright color all summer long in a shaded window box design. This has been Marianne Binetti with easy answers for great gardens.
If you enjoyed these gardening tips, subscribe to our channel so you can get updates on new videos and stay in the know about all things gardening. Click the red subscribe button below. See the description below for more information about how to connect with us on PlantersPlace.com, Facebook, and Instagram.